Hi everyone, welcome back to another video on the channel. Thank you very much for joining me. My name is Warren Bennett, and I'm sure you know by now who that is down there who's actually decided to plonk himself down on the mat and fall asleep. As you can see, I'm in one of the studios here at Chesterfield Golf Club, so I'd like to thank all the folk there for allowing me to come in and use one of the studios here for filming, so thank you very much for that. So the 4 H's to the backswing. So this is just a guide to try and get yourself into the top of the backswing position, and it makes it so much easier to get everything swinging down correctly, because if you're in the wrong position at the top of the backswing, you're going to have to make compensation. I always say compensation is another word for inconsistencies. If you can follow these kind of small guidelines, it's going to make it so much easier to allow everything to swing down to the ball with a little bit less thought. And these 4 H's are going to help you with that. So I'm just going to get set up. Get you-know-who out the way, get the back camera set up. Hopefully it works this time, and I'll see you in a bit. Come on this way. Good boy. Come and lie down. Right, okay, so that's Trev out the way. So, as I've discussed in many videos before, the backswing, I would say, is a bit more of a juggle. Everything else in the swing, you're kind of not letting go, but there is a kind of a lightness and a swing. Backswing, I would say, is a bit more, I hate to say the word, but it's a bit more of a putting exercise. It's like you're trying to juggle all these moving parts. Downswing, you're kind of letting it go. Obviously there's movement, but there's a bit more freewheeling on the downswing and the follow through. Backswing, I would say, you can kind of be aware of all this moving parts, and it's going to be obviously slower as well, so it's easier to do that. And the 4 H's is going to be something that you can always kind of think about. I don't expect anyone to kind of think of these 4 things all at once. You can in practice, you can do it in practice swings and stuff like that. That's when you can try and get a little bit more mechanical. But when you come to hit a ball, I would say there's going to be one part that's probably going to talk to you a little bit more. So let me start with the first H. So the first H is going to be hips. Now what you want to do with the hips, and you would have heard me say this if you're a regular viewer to the channel, you would have heard me say a lot about, see if I can get in the correct position here. You would have heard me a lot say about how your hips need to twist. So you can see my pockets there in a backswing. My pockets are twisting. I'm allowing them to move. So basically my hips and my torso are twisting. You don't want to be stuck and you don't want to be static, because that's going to really limit your movement and get you in the wrong position. So you want to be able to kind of, if I've got an arrow pointing out of my belly button or belt buckle, it's moving at the top of my backswing. It's kind of pointing 45 degrees. It's not locking out my back leg there, but there is, as you can see from the behind view, hopefully if the camera works this time, the behind view, my right knee, there's some movement in it. So I'm not keeping my right knee completely static. So you can see my left pocket does not sway away from that line, which pulls you off the ball. My left pocket, actually, if I can draw that line up there again, my left pocket, because I'm just twisting, it kind of stays on that line. I've still got weight at the top of my backswing, and that allows spine tilt, just a little bit, because it's obviously with an iron, it's not as much with a driver. But if I just twist, so like I'm in a barrel, I'm allowing my left knee to kick in, but my first H is hips. Get those hips working, people, properly. No swaying, so there's no bumping. So back in the day, I always worked on like a bump first. Let's get some weight moving back onto my back leg as soon as I can. That's wrong, because that's going to spine tilt you and reverse pivot your spine. So that's completely wrong. So we need to kind of, you can see the 2 lines in my hips there. So you can see my right pocket this time. You can see that line away from my right pocket increases. So my right pocket's actually going behind me a little bit more. So you can see my left pocket stays on that line, and my right pocket comes away from it. So that's the first H. The first H is hips. How we twist those hips. And that's going to be the steering wheel to allow everything to turn and coil a little bit more freely. So right hip's going to feel like it's going back behind me a little bit. Left hip's just going to come round, so like I'm just twisting completely, like I've got a pole straight through the middle of me. And that's going to set yourself up to be completely over the ball, like you can see with the swing there. That's going to help with your strike immensely. Okay, so the first H is hips. Let's get on to the next one. Second H is hinge. So I'd like you to hinge this club away from the ball. Now, there's a time to do this. There's a right and wrong way to do kind of any swing thought. You don't want this club and you don't want your left hand bowing too much. So I'm twisting my hips, but you don't want the club to drag inside. You're twisting your hips and you're keeping the club looking at the ball. To help that, you need a bit of hinge. Now, if you struggle with that, remember you want to grip it into your fingers more, a little bit. So with both hands, get your club going through your fingers. You don't want them into your palms at all. So towards the end of your fingers, towards the end of your fingers. So you can wrap it over. But that gives you the range of motion for hinging. You're keeping the club looking at the ball for a little bit more, but from here, you're hinging this club up in the air. So you can see, remember, it's all going to be a little bit exaggerated, but I'm twisting and hinging it up. So halfway back, which is roughly left arm parallel, no, it's a bit shorter than that, my club's looking up. So you can see from behind you, I'm keeping my club outside my hands there for the first quarter of the backswing. So my club's still looking at the ball. You'd rather that than the club going inside too early, because that's going to encourage over the top figure of 8. Keep the club face looking at the ball for a little bit and then hinge that club up. Hinge it up in the air. You can stop halfway, keep looking back at the ball. Don't look back whilst you're doing it. Twist and hinge up and then stop and you can check it. Yep, beautiful. It's obviously too exaggerated. It's pretty vertical, that. In an ideal world, you kind of want it through your shoulder there. Hips and hinge. Remember that little exercise? You're just hinging your hands. You're just trying to hit your head with the club shaft. You're not moving your arms too much here. So you're practicing this tendon on the left outside of your left hand and your left wrist. You're trying to stretch that a little bit. If you're not used to doing that, that little exercise is an absolute beauty. Just do a few of those, just allowing the club to lift up while you're pretty static over it. That's obviously massively exaggerated because it's outside, but you'd kind of rather that side of the fence, remember like I said, than that side of the fence. Okay, so that's a really good thing to think of in terms of second H. So we've got hips and hinge. So let's get on to the third one. Right, so the third H is hands. Now, it's obviously in the same family as hinge here, because if you're creating a good hinge, you're going to create a good position at the top. So hands, I mean by hips, hinge, and what you're looking for at the top of your backswing, you're looking for your hands to be away from your body. You're not looking for your hands to be close to your body. If you can get that hinge right, you will probably create a little bit more width anyway. Right, so it's hips, hinge, and you're keeping your hands away from your chest here. So you can see I've got my hands a long way from my chest, probably as far as it can be right now, because you can see that in my left arm, pretty locked. That's going to give me a nice bit of room here at the top of my backswing. You don't want this collapsing. But remember, like I said, it's kind of a byproduct to the hinging. If you haven't got any hinge and you just throw this club in behind you, you're probably going to have to pick it up from here, and that's going to have this kind of collapsing feel, which is going to in turn have to throw you out on the downswing. So the hinging is going to give you the majority of this width and this hand feel at the top. Hips, there's the two lines. Hinge halfway back, you can see there's a nice 90-degree angle from behind you. It's quite vertical, if not completely vertical. Too much. There's obviously a little Goldilocks zone here you can get into. You can be this way, but I'm going to feel this way. It's always good to feel a little bit more than not. Hands nice and wide now. Okay, so let's get on to the fourth and final one, and probably one of the most important to blend it all together. Okay, so I say that this is the most important. Well, they're all important, but if you do this wrong, you're going to be in trouble, especially if you want to create good striking. So, fourth H and final one is head. Now, we've got hips, we've got hinge, and we've got hand. Now, as you can see, when I'm just making these swings for you, you can see my head, because of these hips now twisting nicely, keeping the club outside for the first quarter, hinge it up nice and light, hands away from me, you can see my head stays pretty still. Now, it doesn't stay dead still. You can see my cap here if I zoom in. My cap doesn't stay completely level, because if I do that, I'm now severely restricted. So there's a movement of my head, but it's not a sway. So you can see now if I zoom into my cap, for both sides of my cap, you can see if I twist, you can see now my cap has moved to allow me to coil. It hasn't, if I zoom in again, it hasn't just stayed completely still, because that's about as far as I can twist. That's why you see these great players. If I can put them on and find them, I will, but Hogan did it, Nicholas did it, Woods, Faldo, and obviously a majority of others. They all kind of, at the start, they all kind of twisted their head that way. So they kind of preset their head in a position to twist. So you can do that if you like. I just move mine whilst I'm in motion. It doesn't really matter which way you do it. So what you don't want to do with your head, you don't want to do all these motions, but you don't want to sway off the ball. You can see with the line there, if I'm twisting, but I'm allowing my head to go over my right shoe, I'm going to be in severe trouble. Unless I want to hit one severely high up in the air and hit it really clean, because that's what I would do if I wanted to hit a high one. I'd stay behind it and hit up on it. You're probably going to be in trouble because you haven't got the time at the top of the backswing down into the ball. So keeping your head over the ball whilst you're doing the hips, hinge and hands is really important. It may feel a bit weird, especially if you're used to kind of moving too much. It's going to feel quite weird to stay over the ball a little bit more. But remember, if you're over the ball, like you can see with this line, if you're over the ball to start with, if you've got that weight into your right side, but you're over the ball, it's going to make it so much easier to swing down and hit through the ball. Hit that ball turf, give you that compression. If you're back here too much, you're either going to sit back too long and too much, or you're going to have to lean into it, and you haven't probably got the time to do that. You're never going to have the time to do it. Because remember, what you want to do at impact, you want to be in a different position at impact than you were at your address position. So you want to be forward of the ball, not behind it. And if you're back behind it with your head, there's no chance. Remember, it's a juggle. So being able to juggle these things, and if you're new, or if you've got some faults in your backswing, it's always going to feel difficult, and it's always going to feel a bit weird. And you don't have to start with all four to start with. Hips, hinge, hands, head. Hips, hinge, hands, head. Hips, hinge, hands, head. I'd say the steering wheel to behind the backswing is the hips. You get that right, and you get that first movement away from the ball right, the rest might take care of itself a little bit better. So basically what I'm saying is the order of importance. What's the most important two that I can take to the golf course and kind of get the first domino moving correctly? I'd say, well, let's get the first two right. Because if you start wrong, even if you try and do your hips correctly and this club comes inside, you're going to be in a bit of a trouble. So remember, it's all a bit of a juggle, but that's where kind of work away from the golf course is so important. That doesn't mean you're standing hours and hours at a driving range. You can do this at home. You can have a small little club, or you can grip down to the metal, and you can kind of just feel these positions. You don't even have to make a full backswing. So hips, really get them twisted, and then hinge up nice and light with the hands nice and wide. Keep your head over it, and then push your hands away. Although my left arm is locked, it's nice and light. So as per usual, everyone, thank you very much for watching. Now, if I sound a bit strange or a little bit more out of breath than normal, I haven't been very well. So if I sound a little bit out of breath and a bit weird, I apologise. But yeah, these 4 H's, to have a kind of a reference point to this backswing, like I said at the very start, let's kind of get yourself in the top of the backswing position where it's more automatic, it's not automatic. I remember a coach saying back in years and years ago when I was a teenager, get yourself in a good backswing position and it's automatic. But it's not automatic, nothing's automatic. But it gives you a massive chance to kind of get these moving parts working quickly and in order on the way down. Really, really appreciate everyone's support, because I know there's so much choice out there. Now, taking the time and choosing the Academy, choosing my videos for you to watch means so much. And I really hope that not just this video, but all the previous videos I've done are here for you to understand your golf swing, and understand the golf swing, because you're probably not the same golfer if you've been playing golf for 10 years, let's say, for instance. You're not the same golfer as 10 years ago. You're probably not the same golfer as 2 years ago, or a year ago. So we evolve. So what was right for you then might not be right for you now, because you've evolved and you've improved, hopefully. So not every video will be right for you guys and girls, but being able to understand the golf swing and understand what that ball does and why it does what it does, and more importantly, how to change it, that's the key to my teaching, is for you to understand the golf swing. So it's here for you to kind of have a general understanding about the golf swing. Now, if this isn't for you right now, it might be for you in a year's time, because like I said, we evolve. So again, I appreciate everyone's support. If you're new here, I'd love to have you along as a subscriber, so please click the subscribe button. So as well as YouTube, I'd love you to be part of the Social Media Academy as well. It's a little bit quieter at the moment. It's not as much as it used to be. After I left Chesterfield, it's gone a little bit quiet, but it will resume a little bit more and give you a little bit more behind the scenes. Yeah, so for myself and Trev down here, we bid you a good golfing week and stay healthy on and off the golf course, and we'll see you on the next video. Thanks for joining me, and we'll see you next time. Cheerio.